Merhaba from BA. This is the Rorschach Turkey update from the 31st of December 2024. A quick summary of what's going down in Turkey. Kicking off this edition, on Friday the 27th, a delegation from the Pro-Kurdish People's Equality and Democracy or DEM party visited Abdullah Öcalan, the imprisoned leader of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, which Turkey deems a terrorist organization. This meeting came after Devlet Bahçeli, the leader of the Nationalist Movement Party and President Erdogan's ally, called on Öcalan to address the organization and halt the armed rebellion in exchange for parole. This raised eyebrows, given Bahçeli's ultranationalist stance, and many saw it as striking a deal with terrorists. However, the president also supported this notion, giving the DEM party approval to meet Öcalan. During their meeting, Öcalan reportedly emphasized the need to strengthen the Turkish-Kurdish Brotherhood, urged all political groups to act constructively, and highlighted the Turkish parliament's role in the process. Speaking of Turkish-Kurdish relations, on Sunday the 29th, the country announced a $14 billion regional development plan to bridge the economic gap between its Kurdish-majority southeast and the rest of the country. The investment aims to address the region's lagging economy, partly due to the decades-long insurgency by the Kurdistan Workers' Party or PKK. The industry minister revealed that they will fund around 200 projects, with a projected increase of $1,400 in annual income per capita by 2028. Currently, Şanlıurfa's per capita income stands below $5,000, significantly below the national average of $13,000. In some economic news, on Tuesday the 26th, the central bank cut its policy interest rate to 47.5%. The bank had held rates up 50% since March, along with 18 months of aggressive tightening, reversing earlier unorthodox rate cut policies to combat high inflation that led to soaring inflation and currency devaluation. However, the new cut potentially marks the start of a new easing cycle aimed at stabilizing the economy and addressing high living costs. Inflation, which peaked at 85% in 2022, dipped to 47% last month, with the bank aiming for 21% in 2025. Speaking of inflation, on Friday the 27th, the Labour and Social Security Minister announced that the minimum wage for 2025 will be 22,104 Turkish liras, which is around $630. This is a 30% increase from the previous minimum wage. However, the hike falls short for the country's 47% inflation rate. The Confederation of Turkish Trade Unions criticized the decision, calling it unacceptable and demanding a higher increase. Opposition leaders also condemned the wage, arguing it showed President Erdogan's disconnection from reality. Still on the issue, on Saturday the 28th, President Erdogan addressed the rising cost of living at the 8th Ordinary Provincial Congress of the Justice and Development Party, or AKP, in Bursa, urging citizens to boycott overpriced goods and services. However, critics question the practicality of boycotting essential items like food, fuel, and housing, with fact-checking platforms the Gulu reporting that the new minimum wage won't even cover housing costs in many districts of Istanbul. Economists emphasize the government's responsibility for price controls, calling for stronger oversight to combat exploitative pricing. Erdogan, in the same speech, responded to criticism of the wage increase, stating that the minimum wage is simply a baseline, shifting responsibility to employers. While this may be true, statistics show that most people earn the minimum wage, meaning the baseline effectively determines their salary. Next up, on Wednesday, the 25th, President Erdogan announced the creation of the Family Institute and the Population Policies Board through a presidential decree in the official gazette. The Population Policies Board, formed under the Family and Social Services Ministry, aims to develop and implement population policies while monitoring demographic shifts. The board will include Minister from Justice, Family, Labor, Health and Education, as well as the heads of key agencies like the Religious Affairs Directorate and Turkish Statistical Institute. The Family Institute will focus on family values, welfare, and issues related to women, children, and elderly and veterans. These initiatives following growing concerns over Turkey's declining fertility rate, which fell to 1.51 in 2023, below 2.10, the number of children needed to keep the population stable. For reference, the rate was 1.63 in 2022. In other news, on Friday the 27th, the International Defense Consulting Construction Industry and Trade Inc., or SADAT, seized the assets of Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, the former leader of the Republican People's Party. The action followed Kılıçdaroğlu's failures to pay damages from a defamation lawsuit that Sadat filed. In 2022, Kılıçdaroğlu called Sadat a paramilitary group training terrorists. Sadat sued for 1 million Turkish liras, which is around $35,000, but the court awarded 30,000 liras, a little over $1,000, plus interests. After he missed the 18-month deadline, Sadat seized his bank accounts and other assets. Sadat, often accused of supporting Islamist groups, denies these allegations and defined itself as a defense consultancy. Its founder, Tanrıverdi, resigned in 2020 after controversial remarks about preparing for a messianic figure. On a tragic note, on Wednesday the 25th, an Azerbaijan Airlines plane traveling from the capital Baku to Grozny, Russia, crashed in Kazakhstan's Aktu, killing 38 people. Azerbaijani government sources claim that Russia shot down the plane. In response, on Friday the 27th, the Turkish Transport and Infrastructure Minister announced that the country would send an expert team to Baku to investigate the crash. The team, which departed for Baku on the same day, will conduct technical and operational analysis, assist with investigations, and work in coordination with Azerbaijani authorities to examine the incident thoroughly. On Friday the 27th, Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, spoke during the Union of Municipalities of Turkey Executive Committee meeting discussing government seizures of municipal assets due to unpaid debts. İmamoğlu accused the government of specifically targeting opposition-run municipalities since the local elections, citing political and economic measures taken against them over the past 8 months. He criticized actions like appointing trustees and seizing properties, calling them unjust practices that go against democracy and the rule of law. İmamoğlu also announced that a union delegation would visit Syria to assess the needs of cities like Damascus and build sustainable ties between Turkish and Syrian municipalities. On to a case that rocked the whole country. On Saturday the 28th, a Diyarbakir court sentenced 3 suspects to aggravated life in prison for the murder of the 8-year-old Narin Guran. The suspects include her mother, brother, and uncle. Narin went missing back in August, and the police found her body 19 days later in a nearby stream. The verdict was called into question, and many believed it was rushed and questioned the investigation's handling. The Association for Children and Women First called the verdict insufficient, highlighting the lack of clarity on the crime's motive. On Tuesday, the 24th, members of the Free Cause Party, or Hudapar, a radical Islamist group, protested against the staging of My Wife's Husband, a satire by Croatian writer Miro Gavran criticizing polygamy, outside a theater in Diyarbakir in the east, calling the play immoral. They chanted religious slogans and condemned the play. The protests follow earlier online attacks after the play's announcement. Hudapar said it insulted Islamic values and demanded its ban. In response, the Culture and Tourism Ministry renamed the play Marriage Comedy and altered its promotional material. Despite the changes, the group persisted with their objections, highlighting ongoing tensions over artistic expressions and cultural freedoms in Turkey. On Tuesday, the 24th, Nedim Yamali, a future party MP, left his party to join the ruling AKP. This reduced the Felicity Future Alliance, the parliament's fourth opposition group, to 19 members, below the 20-member minimum required for group privileges like committee representation and weekly group meetings. On Thursday, the 26th, to maintain their status, leaders from Felicity, Future, and the Democracy and Progress, or DEVA party, all conservative parties formed by former AKP supporters, began negotiating an unified alliance with two DEVA MPs switching to the Felicity party. Meanwhile, Mustafa Yerenolu, the DEVA founder, resigned the same day, citing internal conflicts, likely due to the MP's switchover. And that's it for this week. Thank you for joining us. Before leaving, we want to wish you a happy and exciting 2025. Thank you for sticking with us, sharing the podcast, and being such an amazing part of our community. We'll be here as long as you're enjoying the episodes, so if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for how we can get better, don't hesitate to reach out. Shoot us an email at info@rorschach.com. We'd love to hear from you. Hoşça kalın!